And it's always nice to see a new production with a new star that I haven't met before. Katie Finneran, how are you?
Well, I'm already charmed by you. I'll just tell you that much, Alex.
What is it? The accent, the ginger hair, the chubbiness?
It's you're so not. You're just like the perfect lithe, perfect body, the hair. You look like one of the princes.
Anybody listening to this would think I'm a Chippendale, and I'm so not.
You are a Chippendale in my heart.
Well, maybe the sofa. Hey, listen, Katie, thank you for having me here at Annie. It's at the Palace Theatre, and I've been here so many times through the years with various productions. And firstly, it's the most Broadway of any Broadway theatre because it's right here in Times Square, so you're lucky with that.
It's right in Times Square with all the tourists looking up, so you can barely get to work because there's so many people in Times Square. But the lights, it's a huge theater. It's like 1,800 seats. It's I have Judy Garland's dressing room, so what could get better than that, really?
Exactly. Everybody talks to me about this. Every time I come here, it has great heritage. And let's face it, there aren't many theatres with heritage because they're normally knocked down, rebuilt, changed. But this has had so many stars in the dressing room. The last time I was here, it was Drag Queens for Priscilla.
It was, and I can feel the vibe of those drag queens in that dressing room, and it helps me with Miss Hannigan. Yes.
So let's talk about this show then. Annie has been touring in the UK for probably 20 years, and so many people have tried to do it, and they do it well. But you really did knock it out the park today, and you've made it your own, and you're so lively on stage and have such a huge presence. Congratulations, a magical performance.
We're going to have to pause here while Alex and I make out. Excuse me.
I loved that, but now try on the lips.
Well done, sir. Thank you so much for that compliment. It was very intimidating. I was so happy to get the role. It was like winning the lottery, getting the role. And I'm a little younger than they normally go, and it's a different way, and I was just so appreciative that they all trusted me with the role.
What are you now, 19, 20? What are you?
I'm 24. No. I'll be 42 on Tuesday.
Are you really?
Yes.
Wow, congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I loved doing the role, but it has been extremely challenging trying to find my way, my fresh point of view into it. And the way I see her is she's sort of an aging flapper who thought she would be a great burlesque dancer but had no talent at all. And this is just the best job that she could come by.
And the other thing you've got to do with this is not shtick it up. I mean, she's a mean, nasty person. And what we've got to do is laugh at her, really not with her in a sense. And you've got that sort of nastiness, which is brilliant. She's funny with it. And of course, that sense of humour comes through. But there's something quite creepy about her. And she's in the worst job in the world. She couldn't be more misplaced, could she?
I think the way I see it is she had she's an Irish Catholic family. She had 12 brothers and sisters, and she's been a mother her entire life, and she does not want to do it anymore. That's the way I see it. So she has a right to be grumpy. And
you come in with that classic Broadway entrance, through the door, slam the door, and there you are sort of falling down the stairs. Is there any more magical moment to come on Broadway and take this role and just make it your own? Because you get the first big laugh, don't you, really?
Do I? I hope I do. Today I did. It's a great entrance. It's a great production. I love doing it with the kids. The kids are different every day. Sometimes they get, we have a beautiful relationship off stage, and I'm the mother of a 6-month-old and an almost 2-year-old boy. So I'm in a very warm, loving place in my personal life right now. So I have to remind myself to be cruel to the children on stage sometimes. The other day, I accidentally hit one of the little girls by accident, and I immediately went "Oh, are you okay?" sort of under my breath on stage.
I can feel a lawsuit coming on any moment.
Yes.
How do you balance that? I mean, being a mother, being a TV star, being an actress on stage, doing 8 shows a week, looking as if you're loving it, which you do, by the way, which is so infectious. I've just spent literally 2 weeks in Las Vegas seeing 40-plus shows, and I do this in the West End. It's very interesting, put it this way, to see how many people look like they're into it and not, and how many phone it in.
I gotta say, it's like I've been doing this for 22 years on Broadway, and I'm so damn lucky. I have so many great friends that are talented. I work all the time. I love working. I love new people. People always ask me, what's your favorite job? What has your favorite job been? And I always say the one I'm doing now. I love that they said to me when I was 7.5 months pregnant, you know what? Yes, we want you to play Miss Hannigan on Broadway at the Palace Theater. How could I possibly... There's nothing to complain about. When some of the the dancers on the show, or the say, "Oh, I'm so tired." Like the 24-year-old say, "Oh, I'm so tired." I'm like, "I got you beat every time. I'm up in the middle of the night with my babies." So I have nothing to complain about. I have the best life and the most fun of anyone I know.
Yeah, and come back in a year when you're out of work, tell me you're tired. I bet you'd be willing to be tired then.
I do really well when I'm out of work. I always have a good time. Museums. There's plenty to do in New York City.
Do you know what you've got to do as well in this business, and reading your CV and seeing how you've progressed, is embrace the fact that you are not going to work 100% of the time, and you can't get too depressed when you're out because you know you're going to be back. It's keeping that balance, isn't it?
And I'm really good at that. I think of it as camp. Like, I remember one time I had a stretch where I didn't work, and I learned how to goldsmith, to melt old jewelry and make new gold jewelry.
Goldsmith?
Yes, I am an official goldsmith. I could melt your rings and make you a pair of earrings.
There's a double entendre in there somewhere, but I'm not going.
I love the way you say that. Can you say that again?
No, I can't.
Double entendre.
Double entendre. That's a bit of actual French, by the way.
It is. It was.
I have a foreign tongue. I want to talk to you about the fact that you broke 2 rules in this show, working with children and animals, and they were perfect today. I mean, the energy these kids give. I was saying before the interview, there's something about seeing these theatre kids on stage. They seem to focus more than the adults. They seem to come more sort of with energy than the adults. I mean, you could think, well, they'll be okay. But I mean, the performance is magnificent.
You have to realize that these children are up until 11 at night. Some of them live further away, so they're up till midnight, and then they go to school in the morning. They go to school all day long, and then they come to the theater and do the show. And little Emily Rosenfeld, who plays Molly, she looks at me sometimes. She goes, "You know what? I'm pretty tired today." And I'm like, "Really?" I mean, they're like the Energizer bunnies. They just go and go and go, and they're so curious and fun and happy.
And never seem to miss a beat. That's what's magical about them. They just know it, they feel it, they live it, don't they?
When we were rehearsing, I was very postpartum. My baby was 7 weeks old when we started rehearsing. And these kids knew my blocking, my lines. They knew every single note that I had to sing. Yeah, they're pretty smart kids.
Nothing worse than being upstaged by a 7-year-old, is it?
Not much. There's not much.
There's something about you girls, and I've interviewed many of you over the years, these leading ladies on Broadway, and I can't describe what it is. There's a magnetism between you and the audience, and you look like a leading lady. You carry yourself like a leading lady, and whether it's one role different to another, you can sort of tell. Can you be trained for that? I've come to sort of believe that you have to be born with it, or there'd be more of you.
It's funny. That's such a huge compliment, so thank you so much. Pause while we make out again. You could have helped me with the sound effects.
I might be sat down, but I'm giving you a standing ovation. I'm rolling out all these old lines today.
You really are.
It's because I saw The Old Jews yesterday. It's got me in the gag mood.
Oh, how is that show?
Oh, marvellous.
I hear it's fantastic. I wish I had time to see it.
90 minutes, you can be back in the bar by the time of the interval started here.
I love it. You're funny. You're talking about being a leading lady, and gosh, that's such an interesting thing. Thank you for thinking of me that way.
Well, you are. You're Miss Hannigan here on Broadway, for Christ's sake.
I think if that many people are going to focus on putting lights on you and a great costume and great makeup and a great wig, you kind of have to step up, even if you're not feeling it that day. You kind of have to go, all these people that are looking at me, I'm going to have to do this performance today. I have to, act as if today.
And then, of course, the thing about this role is you've got to have an amazing voice to do it, but you're not singing amazingly, if you know what I mean, in your leading lady style. These aren't 11 o'clock numbers where you're stood there with poise and beauty. In fact, it's the opposite of that. But to be able to do that brilliantly, you have to have great poise and a great voice, don't you?
I always think that I love character roles because I think I sing well, but I'm not a phenomenal singer. So I love character roles where I can sort of hide behind the character and the story through the song rather than having to sing beautifully.
But there's an obvious strength there. That's what I love about it, and that's what I'm talking about, the way you deliver your numbers. And they're very physical as well. In fact, you never stop sort of acting, dancing throughout the entire show, do you?
I don't. And I'll be dancing for you in my mind now.
Oh, maybe a Pink Neglected or something. One of those diaphanous 90s, maybe. No, diaphanous, not diaphanous. Sorry.
Diaphanous, yes, a diaphanous 90. Oh, I'm going to have to bring one home for my husband and say that you recommended it.
Yeah, don't mention me to the husband. Now, why did you have to bring it in? Everything was going well until you brought him up.
Wait, can I see you when I'm in London?
Yes, of course you can. Anytime, I'll give you my card.
I lived in London, and I loved it so much. I loved it. I would live there in a heartbeat. I loved it. I love New York City, but I loved living in London. I did a show there with Sam Mendes many, many years ago, and I loved it.
What's the difference then? Is it just the history and the buildings? Because, I mean, here you have big ones. We have smaller ones, but they are more beautiful.
They're more beautiful. I think it's a more beautiful, it's like a gentler New York. It's a more proper New York. It's the cab drivers we love our cab drivers here in New York City, but the cab drivers in London, I think, have to train for like 20 years before they're allowed to be a cab driver. So it's almost like they're like the knights of drivers. They are, say, a private chauffeur here in New York City is to the chauffeur in...
Yeah, but all you American girls think that we're classy just because we have an English accent, even if we're riffraff like me.
Yeah, but you guys are pretty randy and pretty risque sometimes. You guys are pretty cheeky, I would say.
I think that's
and watching your television. See, we think you're so classy because we get all your best television, but if you actually live in London and you watch the television that Londoners watch, you know that is very similar to American television.
Okay, I have to now apologise on behalf of Jeremy Kyle, that scumbag. You didn't deserve him. We should never have sent him over.
Oh, yeah.
And Piers Morgan as well. I'm so sorry.
Oh, come on.
I feel so sorry that we've sort of lumbered him on CNN, but it means we don't have to watch him every night.
The more the merrier, you know?
Exactly. And that's what this business is about, personalities and being diverse. And certainly Broadway invests in that. And that's what's great about this. I mean, it's an old show that's brought back. And it's funny how it feels relevant today. When you hear about the crash and the depression and this and that and the other thing, actually, we're not far away from it, are we, with what's going on here in New York? I mean, since I've been here, my favourite restaurant's closed, my favourite shoe shop's closed, my favourite suit place is closed, Colony's closed where I get backing tracks. Everything's closed.
Colony. Oh, let's have a moment for Colony.
Yeah, let's just have a moment's silence, which won't work on radio, but we can do it anyway.
No one that's listening to this knows what we're talking about.
Well, let's make out for 1 minute, starting now, in silence.
Let's just make out in
That's
silence
more fun.
for 1 minute.
Let's talk about your children upstairs.
Yes.
How are they? How do they mind being in this theatre? I mean, it must be terribly dull for a 2-year-old to see Mummy coming in these strange frocks every day.
They love it. I have a little box of toys. They're in my dressing room, also known as Judy Garland's dressing room, Liza Minnelli's dressing room.
I think you mentioned that twice.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm so privileged to be in that room. Are you kidding me? I have to give its history, homage to its history. They are wonderful. They're wonderful. They get to come between shows all the time, and whenever I'm here, they come between, when I have a break and we play, and it's great. It's really great.
I've loved talking to you today. I'll give you my card. Let me know when you're next in London. You should bring this over into the West End because it's sort of like the English version but on steroids done properly.
Do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you watch it so many times?
Well, I've got various friends in it. So my friend Sue Pollard does Miss Hannigan, and then Leslie Joseph's in it. She does Miss Hannigan from time to time, and it's continually touring. So every time it's back every year, I have to see it, and I've been doing it a long time. I'm 104.
Wow, you're so not 104. I knew by making out with you that you were not 104.
These weren't lips of 104-year-olds. How many 104-year-olds have you made out with to know that these were...
And I know that you are not 104.
And that's how you get the leading lady role in show business.
That's right.
Congratulations on all your work in theatre and on telly. We didn't cover half of it, but it's such a pleasure to see someone who is totally unique, and you absolutely deserve it. It's Annie On here at the Palace on Broadway. You can't miss it. If you go and get tickets from TKTS, it's just opposite. You don't even have to walk, which Americans love.
On this street, it's on the same street.
I bet there are some Americans who get in a cab from that little ticket booth and cross the street.
I'll bet they do.
Anyway, listen, lovely to talk to you. Katie Finneran. And I said that right, Fineran or Finneran? I would be Fineran if this was in the UK.
You can say however you want to say it because it sounds so good when you say it. Katie Finneran.
All right. Well, my oral dexterity says Finneran. Katie Finneran, thank you so much for talking to me.
My new lover.